Hey, Emerald Coast Church family, thank you so much for joining us for another Wednesday testimony. I'm Macy Walker, and this evening I have our college and community pastor, Alex Gentili, joining me. Alex, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Emerald Coast Fellowship.
Yeah. I was born and raised here in Panama City, Florida. I've grown up here my entire life. I love Bay County. I love this community. I'm 24 years old. I married the girl of my dreams, Hannah. She and I grew up in the youth group together here at church, and she's just always been the girl that I've had a crush on. And so we got married back in May of 2017. We just had our first daughter, Annabelle, back in December, and Annabelle will turn actually 6 months next week. And so she's growing super fast, and we're just enjoying being parents and enjoying life and enjoying ministry. My job here at the church actually is kind of twofold, like you said. I'm the community and college pastor here, so I kind of have two different jobs. I give oversight to our community ministries, which really there's kind of three main ones that we have. We have our backpack blessings program, which is our food ministry where we pack food bags for kids in the local school system. And then we also have our shoe ministry, which is Happy Souls, where we go into the local schools and put shoes on kids' feet. And then we have Elevate Bay, which is our mentoring program, where we send mentors into the classrooms, into the local schools again, and partner with our school system to mentor the young kids. And so I give oversight to all those different ministries, as well as our college ministry, which is called Collide, that meets on Thursday night. It's a community-wide college ministry for college students from all different backgrounds and all different denominations and just from all different churches. And we gather every Thursday night and focus on worship and Bible study and just fellowship. So I really enjoy what I do. I love Bay County, and I love being here at the church.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Let's go ahead and jump right into your testimony. So tell us what your life was like before Christ.
Yeah, I had a blessed childhood. I mean, I really did. Once again, born and raised right here in Panama City. I grew up in just an amazing household. I mean, my parents and grandparents were both heavily invested in my life. They were Sunday school teachers. My grandparents served as Sunday school teachers for decades. My parents have as well. My parents are actually still Sunday school teachers here for our college group here at Emerald Coast. And so I just grew up in a Christian household. And so my childhood was awesome and fun. We focused on church and sports and just family time. That was really kind of the main things that we did. I mean, my parents, I was trying to think as I was getting prepared for tonight, there really was never a moment in my life growing up as a kid that my parents and even my grandparents missed any of my sports events or school stuff or anything that me and my brothers did. I mean, they were always there. So they showed or showered us with love and just invested into us. And so we just had fun. I mean, our childhood was amazing and just a great time growing up here in Panama City.
So do you remember the first time that you actually encountered Christ yourself and you made the decision to be saved?
Yeah, so once again, we grew up in church. I mean, when the church doors were open, we were here. We were involved in RA and GAs as kids growing up, involved in the children's ministry, in the nursery. I mean, we just grew up in church. But when I first accepted Christ and really began to establish my own faith was when I was 7 years old. And I can just remember it very vividly I was actually randomly in the kitchen on the floor playing and just spending time just by myself. And I just remember thinking about like who Christ is and all the things that we learn in Sunday school and in church as kids growing up. And I just remember asking my mom more about Jesus and about God and all that kind of stuff. And we had a conversation, and then we came and met with Dr. Bill Montgomery, who was the pastor before Dr. Steve, and we had more conversations, and ultimately I accepted Christ at 7 years old and then followed through with believer's baptism, and so accepted Christ then.
So now that you've accepted Christ, how did that ultimately change your life after that growing up?
Yeah, so once again, I mean, I feel like I'm saying the same thing, but after I accepted Christ, really nothing kind of changed growing up. I mean, we still focused on sports and academics and then church life. Church was always a big deal. But really, my life began to kind of change a little bit when I got into high school. And my priorities began to kind of change a little bit. And really, sports became my thing, and it specifically baseball. My attention was on baseball. I really had a desire to go play college baseball. And so that was really my focus. And there was never a moment where I left the church. I mean, once at that time in high school, I got involved with the youth group over at the Rec with Doug and began serving in the youth group. So I never had a moment where I left the church or distanced myself from my faith, but I will say it was not a priority until my junior year of high school. And so really a moment that I really encountered God and things really began to change was going off to summer camp my junior year of high school. Once again, my priorities were not on my relationship with Christ. I wasn't fixated on that. And to be honest, I really had no desire to go to church camp. I didn't want to go. I really wanted to stay home and play baseball and not miss any high school practices. But my parents made me and my brothers go, or made me go. And that's when God just got a hold of me and he called me into ministry. And I didn't really know what that meant. I just, at that camp, I had an experience, an encounter with God where I felt his presence calling me. And really, he said, come follow me. Those were kind of the words that I heard. And so when I got back from church camp, I really just started diving deep into the scriptures and trying to find that phrase, come follow me. And ultimately, it took me to Luke chapter 9, verse 23, which talks about denying yourself and taking up your cross daily and following after me, and what really means to be a true disciple. So it was in that moment that I really kind of gave my life, not over to Christ to be saved, but really bought into what it means to be a believer and really made that my priority. And I stopped playing baseball, not saying if you become a diehard believer that you have to quit sports or anything, but I knew that I was called to something bigger than just having a relationship with Christ. I wanted to do ministry, and I felt called in that. And so I got heavily involved with the rec, and ultimately doors opened, and that's when we started our college ministry when I graduated, and things kind of changed. So that was really kind of an encounter with Christ that has really shaped my life since the moment of accepting Christ when I was younger.
So what advice would you give to someone who's a new Christian? What would you tell them so that they could skip the phase of kind of being lukewarm, so that they could just go straight to being on fire for the Lord?
Yeah, for me, there's really two things, and this is kind of what I tell our college students all the time. And the first one is this, that when you accept Christ, you're now on a new journey, and it's really a process. And it's not something that you're just going to go from being a non-believer to just an on-fire, like mature believer like that overnight. I mean, it's a process. It's a journey. It's seasons of your life where it takes time, and it takes growing, and it takes putting in the effort. And so what I would say in my advice would be to not feel like you have to do it on your own. I think so many people feel like that they're on this new journey of being a believer by themselves. And we're not called to do that. You're not called to be a believer who navigates through life on their own. And that's why small groups are important. That's why being involved in church is important. That's why being involved in different ministries are important. The more people that you can surround yourself with and help you navigate through that new season of life will really help you grow. And then the second thing is this, and this is really one of the main things that we teach at Collide, is that I believe that God has the scriptures teach that God has created every single one of us, that we are his workmanship, that we are his children. And I believe that God has given every single one of us some kind of gift or tool to help fulfill our purpose in our life. And each one of us have our own specific purpose and skill set, which ultimately is to help further the kingdom. And so just to know that God has made you and created you, not by accident, but on purpose, for a specific calling and purpose that only you can fulfill. So I think that would be my advice, to just know it's a process, enjoy the journey, but know that you have a specific purpose and that God's created you to do something special for him.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Alex, for sharing your testimony with us. Stay tuned next week to hear another staff testimony.
This is my story. What's yours?